Hi, my name is Robert Shelley with Shelley Law, and I'm an attorney that assists physicians with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about what is the average work RVU compensation for a pediatrician. So first, let's talk about if you are compensated via RVUs. What is the most kind of consistently used model in that scenario, and then I'll get into specific numbers based upon well-known data services that provide compensation data for physicians. So the first thing is, if you are being compensated fully based upon RVUs, there's a number of different ways to do it. Most of the time, you're either working for a hospital network or employed. Perhaps you're a hospitalist in this pediatric hospitalist in this situation. It's pretty rare that you would be compensated via RVUs if you're working for like a smaller physician-owned group. It just doesn't happen. Normally, they compensate via net collections and not RVUs. So if you are compensated via RVUs, it is via work RVUs. There's three types of RVUs. Basically, you have the professional fee RVUs, the malpractice RVUs, and the work RVUs. And so when it comes to a physician, they're only compensated via the work RVUs. Now, an RVU is simply a number that is associated to an encounter. The Center for Medicare Services, CMS, comes out with a list every year, and essentially every encounter is given an RVU value based upon the acuity and the length of time spent with the patient. So the more complex the case, the more time you spend with the patient, the more RVUs that you'll generate. And then they will take that number and multiply it by what's called a compensation factor, so like a monetary value. So let's say you had an encounter that generated 2 RVUs. An average amount of compensation factor for a pediatrician would be around $44 per RVU. So you would literally just multiply 2 times 44, and then you've made $88 for that encounter. Now, most places where you're going to get paid via RVUs will have some kind of guaranteed base salary for either 1 or 2 years, and then they would basically dip into the RVU model. It can be done a number of ways. It could be pure RVUs, meaning you only get paid for the RVUs that you generate. There could be a hybrid model where you have like a minimum guaranteed base, and then that you will get bonused based upon if you generate above a certain value. Just going over the numbers briefly. So the average pediatrician generates, I just want to make sure I get this right, around 5,100 work RVUs per year. And then, as I said before, the average compensation factor is around $44. Now, this can vary. These are average numbers, so it can vary based upon geographical setting, obviously. And then, as I said before, you will generate more RVUs if you're seeing a higher acuity population. And then also, there's going to be differences between if you're working in a hospital versus obviously outpatient clinic type stuff. So those are the base numbers. Now, how would you get paid if you're paid just purely on RVUs? Well, basically, the organization is going to come up with like a base draw, meaning, it's not like they're just going to calculate at the end of the month and pay you one amount. There'll be some kind of, usually around 80% of whatever your RVUs, kind of calculated out across the year. That would be your base draw, and then there'd be some kind of reconciliation. So let me do a better job of explaining this. So let's just say you make $240,000 per year in RVUs from the previous year, right? Well, then they would annualize that, so then you're making $20,000 a month. That's 240, and then they would probably take about 80% of that. So then they would cut off 20% of that, and then that would be the base draw amount that you would receive at each pay period, or if it's bi-monthly, monthly, whatever it is. And then there would be a reconciliation where they would then multiply the actual RVUs generated versus what they paid out via the base draw, and then you would be paid out whatever that amount is above. So if you generated, say, 100 RVUs above that, they just multiply 100 times whatever the compensation factor is that was negotiated. Let's say it was 44, then you get an extra 4,400 per month. Now that's going to be on the high side. That's not reality, but I was just using that as an example. Now, what happens if you aren't generating enough RVUs to meet what they're paying you? Well, most contracts will have some kind of language in that states either they'll carry forward a negative balance. So if you aren't hitting it, they'll keep the negative balance moving forward until it's paid off. Or at the end of the year, they will then decrease the base draw based upon the percentage below the kind of target RVUs that you were expected to generate for that year. So that's kind of a brief understanding of RVUs for pediatricians. Really the only variable, well, I guess there's two variables that could be negotiated. One, the compensation factor. So think of it this way. If they're just paying you a base salary, and then you have maybe some productivity bonuses based upon RVUs, you want to make sure they line up. So meaning if you're generating the 75th percentile of RVUs, but you're being paid out at the 25th percentile, well, that's a problem that you need to remedy through negotiation. So the bonus threshold, meaning the number of RVUs you generate, is one thing that can be negotiated. And then the compensation factor, so the monetary value that it's multiplied by, that can be negotiated as well. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to contact my law firm at the contact information listed in the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'm happy to answer any of them. And I appreciate you watching the video. Thanks.